What's up, everybody? Welcome to RealGM Radio. I'm your host, Wes Goldberg. Today, Matt Moore is back, and we are making our picks for over-unders in the Western Conference. Let's jump in. All right, it's RealGM Radio. Thanks so much for tuning in. The best way to support the show is to hit that subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube. Make sure to follow us on your podcast app to get this show every week. I am back today with Matt Moore to pick our over-unders. So we did the Eastern Conference in our last episode. We went long. We ran out of time. So we decided to break this thing up. We're going to do a separate podcast now on the Western Conference over-unders. So let's just jump right in. We're going to go in alphabetical order, just like we did in the East. And we're going to start with the Dallas Mavericks, Matt, I have them down at 40.5 wins. They won 39 games last season. And of course, they've had a lot of changes over the last several months. The thing that sticks out to me, and maybe this is a good point to start with, is that Anthony Davis played just 9 games for Dallas. They go 6-3 in those 9 games. People in the Mavericks will tell you all the time, hey, look at what that looked like when he was there. We're right back to title contention. Defense wins championships. Fortune favors the bold, blah, 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 blah. Matt, when you saw that 40.5 number for them, what did you think?
Too high for me. I don't get it. I just don't get it. Look, the defense might be good, might be great, might be elite, right? 80's good. Awesome. 80's awesome. No question. Top 15 player. Derek Lively is a great center to pair with him. Daniel Gafford can pair with him in the other minutes. Him playing at power forward always results in really good seasons when he plays. Okay. Let's move aside. Let's just move aside the whole question of how many games he's going to play. Right. And that's a big thing to set aside. They have no one to reliably and consistently generate and orchestrate offense. The only person is D'Angelo Russell. Now, I get the argument if you use last year and you're like, look at the splits with D'Angelo Russell and Anthony Davis without LeBron, because they were dynamite. It was one of the most baffling things early in the season when it was like they are murdering teams when D'Angelo Russell and Anthony Davis play together. Just murdering them.
Mm-hmm.
Do we really think that that's sustainable? Do we really think that or was that just noise? And I'm always the guy that's like, there's more signal than noise in these minutes. These are actual people actually playing games. That one I can't get through anything except it being noise. Like D'Angelo Russell's their point guard. If Kyrie Irving was here, sure, fine, cool. This is probably low, right? And I don't like the idea of me thinking this. I'm at 35. Okay, 35 with low. I don't like the idea of me saying, wait, if I think that with Kyrie, they're over 41, and this is probably should be 43.5, that Kyrie Irving is worth 9 wins, that's too much. That doesn't make any sense.
Right. But it does when you consider that he is the only player on this team that can do the thing that we're talking about there. Who drives into the paint on this team? Who? Like
Max.
Right. There's nobody. Like D'Angelo Russell, that's not his game. I like the D'Angelo Russell signing for them. At the value that they got him, I was like, hey, that's really cool. That's good. That's a good value addition. That's good business. But D'Angelo Russell is not a guy who drives into the paint and kicks out the shooters. That's not his game. It's never really been his game. He doesn't have that athleticism. He doesn't have that drive and kick ability. Anthony Davis, that's not his game either. That's not what he's going to do. The only guy who can really do it is Cooper Flagg.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just saying, like, somebody's listening, screaming Cooper Flagg right now.
That is asking a lot. I love Cooper Flagg. That is asking a lot of your rookie. To me, and I hate to be so sort of simple about it, this number, they could go over if Cooper Flagg is just awesome right away. If he's awesome in the way that Luka and Wembanyama were awesome right away, maybe they can go over, because that just means he's basically the point guard of this team, and he's got the ball in his hands, and he's driving and kicking, and he's kind of making everything click into place. Because this team, while we all like a lot of the parts on this team, I love Anthony Davis. You mentioned the centers. They got PJ Washington. They have Klay Thompson, who could still make open threes. I like the D'Angelo Russell signing. I like Max Christie. Like, there's a lot of guys on this roster who I like. There's no rug to tie the room together. And so I just feel like you have all these like interesting pieces just sort of floating about, trying to figure it out here. So that's I'm with you. I thought this number was pretty high. I would take the under. I have under written down here in my notes. But like I said, they might go over if Cooper Flagg is just awesome and can do all of these things.
See, now I go the other direction where I'm like, it's probably a black swan that we don't see coming, right? Jaden Hardy is a guy that has been like shuffling around this roster, and most Mavericks fans are just kind of like shrug about. Had a really good season last year. Like, I think Jaden Hardy is actually like moving towards being an NBA guy that can actually be and has some runway
Yeah.
to actually be really good.
That's a good call. I like him too. Yeah.
Omax Prosper, the defensive numbers are really good on him now. I don't even know if he's going to play this year, but like Klay Thompson, the defensive numbers are an absolute nightmare. Now, Max Christie, this is the way, right? Is like that they are the magic of last year, that it's
Right.
Max Christie and Prosper turns into an actual defensive prospect, and that Klay has a bounce back season because the defensive numbers were terrible with him, and that their model of Gafford, Lively, Davis, we're jamming the paint, we're going to dare you to shoot threes, and you're going to miss just like the Thunder did, that carries them through the offensive struggles. But I can't get there in a Western Conference with this much firepower and this much defense. I have to go under here.
Yep. Because if they are the Magic defensively, sure, okay, I can hear it. They still don't have a Paolo Banchero on offense. They still don't have a Franz Wagner. And as much maligned as their playmaking is, just there's not anybody in that realm on this Mavericks. Again, unless there's a black swan event, to your point, unless Jaden Hardy just becomes like a starting level point guard all of a sudden, whatever. Or if Cooper Flag's just awesome right away. So I'll take the under on this one. Let's talk about the Denver Nuggets, your home team here. 53.5 wins is the over-under that I have written down. What I find interesting, my first instinct, Matt, was to go over on this because I love their offseason. I love Nikola Jokic. That's just like first blush instinct. I'm going to go over because I just like the Nuggets this year. They've only ever gone over this number twice since Jokic became Jokic. 54 wins is quite a bit of wins.
It's a lot.
Especially in the Western Conference. But it is the first year under David Adelman, right? Most of those seasons were under Michael Malone. It's the first official year with David Adelman being the head coach. Are they energized with the new head coach? Are they energized after the roster additions in an interesting offseason? Is the Cam Johnson for Michael Porter Jr. swap something that energizes that locker room? I thought Jamal Murray had a really underrated regular season last year, too. Is that more of what's to come? Is he sort of just back to being Jamal Murray and we're not asking all these questions about him all the time? I think there's some interesting stuff here. I can kind of go either way. I'm really interested to see where you have it.
So I think we kind of return to what we talked about with the Cavaliers, which was like these high numbers and the reality. And I actually wanted to correct this off the last episode. It's 6 of 8. I was counting 2 more. It's 4 of 6 have gone over. The last 4 out of 6, 4 out of the last 6 have gone over with a win total higher than 54 wins. I have them at 56.7, so I lean towards the over here. I think like a reasonable question is, do they manage the season a little bit better? This is going to be a continuing narrative in Denver that we're going to talk about a lot on Locked On Nuggets as it goes along. Joker doesn't want to miss games. He never wants to sit. He wants to play through it. He wants to take the hardest road possible. He doesn't want to hear excuses. And the problem, there are a number of issues with that. One is that it causes things like Aaron Gordon feels like he can't miss time because if the big fella's out there, Aaron feels like he needs to play. And that's a problem. The other problem is just the Joker's starting to get to the point where he is starting to tire out at the end of these seasons. Like he was gassed in 2024. He was gassed in 2025. They have to do more in order to limit him and get him a few more days of rest. The hope is that they will win enough games that they can actually do this. The problem, I always have this issue with NBA teams. Every year, coaches are like, yeah, we've got to get him some minutes of rest. You know when you need to rest, guys? It's January. It's December, January, February. That's when you need to rest, guys. Because that's when they're starting to gas out from having played half a season. That's when they start to get tired. That's when the injuries start to pile up. That's when you need to be. That's the hardest part of the season, mentally, emotionally, physically, is the middle of the season. Physically, actually, it might be March because then you're just like trying to get to the finish line. But you mentally are like, all right, one more month and then we're at the playoffs. But mentally in January, it's a drag. They need those days off in January and December to get them through. But it's very hard to do that because you never have enough separation to feel like you're good. Right. So you don't feel like you can do that. But Denver's going to have to do that, I think, a little bit this year, which could take this number down.
Right.
But with an improved bench, they added they took out Michael Porter Jr. and added Bruce Brown, JV, and Tim Hardaway Jr. You know, Cam Johnson replaces Michael Porter Jr. That's 3 more NBA caliber guys that they have. Julian Strawther, I think, is actually going to be good. Peyton Watson could be. His extension talks are going to be interesting. Their starters are going to kill again. Their bench minutes will be better. This team should win 55+ games. I think it's an over.
So I have over written down.
Yeah.
To me, yes, their offseason was awesome. I love all the additions. I love that we know what Bruce Brown looks like here. I think we kind of know what Tim Hardaway Jr. looks like here, even though he's never played with Jokic, but I have a really good idea of what that's going to look like. Jonas Valanciunas is just a cinder block that comes off the bench, and they need that. To your point, though, do they try to rest Jokic? They can kind of go. They can look at their postseason struggles over the last couple of years, and struggles is a strong word, but shortcomings, I guess, over the last 2 years in two ways. They could say, well, we need to make sure Jokic is fresh for the playoffs, or they could say, we need the first or second seed in the West so that we could avoid the Thunder for as long as possible. I don't know that they look at the Thunder that way. You probably have a better idea of that than I do, but even just having home court advantage as a 1 or a 2 seed for as long as possible, they could look at it and say, we want that, we need that. David Adelman, as the first-year head coach full-time, could be like, I want that. Like, this is the first time I'm a head coach. I kind of want home court advantage or something. So it'll be interesting, but I'm going over. I'm going over either way.
They've suffered with both. They've suffered with, in 2024, they chased the 1 seed. After the All-Star break, they were lights out. They were awesome. But then it got to be they were winning so much they just wanted to keep winning. And so they kept playing the starters and not resting them and pushing every game. And there was actually the San Antonio game where they gave up a huge lead, collapsed, and that cost them the 1 seed in 2024, which would have had them probably avoid the Wolves. That game largely was the product. Like, part of what happened in that game is Michael Malone wanted to play the young guys to give the starters a rest, and the starters revolted and were like, no, like, we're winning this game. We want the 1 seed. So then they peeled off a little bit last year. Now, they just weren't very good last year, but they peeled off a little bit last year. And then last year they were like, it's really hard without home court. It's like, well, you can't have both, guys. Like, some teams can. If you're in the East, you can, but it's very hard for you to be able to rest and have home court. You may have to make a binary decision between the two. And I have a feeling I think they'll choose rest this time because they have so much confidence in their ability to go on the road.
So we're both going over there. We got the Warriors here next. I've got them written down at 45.5. They haven't done anything this offseason. I'm going to go ahead and assume they end up with all the names that people keep assuming is going to end up there. Al Horford, DeAnthony Melton, Gary Payton II. Maybe one of those guards, maybe they miss out on one of those guards because of this Kuminga stuff just takes too long. Who knows what happens with Jonathan Kuminga? Frankly, Matt, I'm not the biggest Jonathan Kuminga believer on this Warriors team. I don't think he makes an impact one way or the other. So I don't really care. I don't have him factored in when I'm looking at this win total. Either way. So I'm just assuming that they have those guys that we think that they're going to sign. Their starting lineup probably looks something like Steph Curry, Buddy Hield, Jimmy Butler, Draymond Green, Al Horford. And then that off the bench, they have Podziemski. Maybe he starts over Hield, whatever. Moody, maybe he starts over Hield. Those are all kind of interchangeable. Gary Payton II, DeAnthony Melton. They have Quentin Post, Trace Jackson Davis. There's some guys I like in that group. But 45.5 seems like quite a bit of wins for an aging team with some real injury history that needs their top guys to be healthy to make a push here. But maybe they're also more of a team that just needs to get into the playoffs healthy and be healthy. As long as they're healthy at that point, maybe they can make a run here. But 45.5, I don't know. My first instinct was that was pretty high for their over-under.
I started with them being an under, and I just now, actually, while we were talking, made the adjustment of like, all right, let's add Horford and Melton in there to how I've got this calculated from just a number standpoint. I come out at 47.7, so it's a slight over with those guys. There's talk Jake Fisher reported this. We talked about this on Locked On NBA. The Warriors had reached out to Chicago about a double sign and trade with Giddey.
Right.
That makes so much more sense to me. Where I'm like, that is an East-West player in an East-West system. What I mean by that is like Steph is not North-South. Steph is always running around, moving sideways. Butler likes weird angles. He doesn't go strictly north-south. He's not like Russell Westbrook straight to the rim. Jonathan Kuminga is a north-south guy. This is the words of his teammates. Like, I was at a game where Gary Payton Jr. was asked post-game about him, about what Kuminga brings, and it's like, he gets downhill. That's not what the Warriors run. That's not how they operate their offense. So he doesn't make any sense there. This has frustrated me that they're continuing to squeeze this kid and may not trade him, despite the fact that it's like, you don't want him, you don't need him, you didn't play him. Let him go somewhere where he can actually be an impact and you can get some good guys. Turning down Malik Monk in any first-round pick for Jonathan Kuminga is madness, in my opinion, for the Golden State Warriors. But as far as their win total goes, I think this number is pretty close. I think that you have to factor in how old these guys are and the likelihood of injury, where even an average outcome for them probably gets this to where it's pretty scary if you're picking the over.
Yep.
And if they have a bad year of injury stuff, it's very likely an under. I don't know a lot of ways where this team wins 50, 52, 54 wins. There's some guys out there that I think are really high on Golden State and think they can do it. And I'm just like, guys, you got to really pay attention to some of the slides that we've seen. Steph's still amazing, but he's not who he was 3 years ago. Jimmy's really amazing. He's not who he was 3 years ago. Draymond's really amazing. He's not who he was 3 years ago. Father Time's undefeated. And it doesn't have to be a big drop off for any of them. If it's just like a one-step drop off for all three guys, then this team isn't what we think of them as.
Right.
So I lean towards the under. The numbers suggest an over. I'm going to stay away from it. But if you got to tell me I got to pick one, I'm probably leaning towards the under.
I think you nailed it when you said it's a scary over. It's a scary over because you're betting on health for all of these guys. And look, they won 48 games last year. Steph played 70 games.
Yeah.
That's a lot of games for Steph.
Yep.
And it felt like that was the most amount of games he could miss. When he was out, it was bad in Golden State. And if he plays 65 games instead of 70, they can go under. Now, a lot of Warriors fans will point to, hey, look at what we did after the Jimmy Butler trade. We were 9th in offensive rating, 1st in defensive rating, 3rd overall in net rating. Our record was a bajillion and nothing or whatever it was. And the only reason we didn't make it out of that round in the playoffs was because Steph got hurt. Okay, fine. Warriors fans are going to learn something about Jimmy Butler this season. When Jimmy Butler plays regular season games, he doesn't care about regular season games. Jimmy Butler only wants playoff games. And Jimmy's going to take a lot of nights off in the regular season, and he's not going to look as energized and as motivated and as FU Miami Heat as he did last year after the trade deadline. And that's just the way Jimmy Butler is, and that's fine. It's worked for Jimmy Butler over the course of his career. But in the regular season, he is not a superstar. He is a postseason superstar. And if you're dealing with that from Jimmy Butler, if you miss a couple more Steph Curry games, the Draymond Green thing, there's some nights where he looks like the best defensive player in the league, and then there's other nights where he just doesn't anymore. He's just not that guy consistently at this age. Nothing against Draymond, but you said, like, it's father time. It happens. It's really scary for me to take that, to pick them to win 46 games this year. So I went under here, a slight under. I don't feel great about it. This is probably a stay away for me.
Yeah.
But it's maybe not as slam dunk of a stay away either as I thought maybe it would be.
The numbers are so good in those games with Butler. However, if you go back, because I noticed this at the time, it was stuff like Luis Santos has a career high.
Right.
Quentin Post goes for 18 and whatever, like 20. It was like a bunch of random wins where a lot of Draymond Green had a season high in one of those games and scoring. He was like a lights out scorer for one night. Now you could say like that's the Jimmy effect. He makes everybody better. And I'm like,
right.
All right,
there's also a pretty soft schedule for those first week and a half or two.
Yeah. And like, look, they will have soft stretches of their schedule too.
Cool.
It's just a matter of how much of that record do you kind of distinguish against? Like, what is the record how far is it from that being an outlier? If we take that down a reasonable amount, and then we factor in injuries and ups and downs and everything else, what does that kind of look like?
At their age, they need to just get into the post. I like them much more as a scary playoff team than a regular season wins team.
Yeah.
I think that's just the difference here.
Yeah.
One other point on the Josh Giddey Kuminga thing, I wanted to piggyback on that. I remember I was covering the Warriors for Bay Area News Group at the time, and I remember talking with some people in the front office then, and there was a pretty significant contingent of people who really liked Josh Giddey in that draft. And Giddey went 6, Kuminga went 7. Oklahoma City took Giddey at 6, which was a little bit of a surprise until just before the draft, and then people started to figure that part of it out. I think that they would have been had Kuminga gone 6 and Giddey been there at 7. I think the Warriors would have taken Giddey. I think they were really interested in that.
Interesting.
The other guy that they liked was Franz Wagner in that draft, but they thought that was going to be too much of a reach, so they were wrong. I thought the Giddey, when I saw that Giddey report from Jake Fisher, that was the first thing I thought of. I was, they've kind of liked this guy for a while because they know that he can work in that system. Who's next in alphabetical order? Houston, big number here, 55.5. Isn't that the same number that the Cavs had?
Yeah.
It's a big number. That's a big number. This is a team that is built, in my mind, for the regular season. They have depth. They play tough. They're well coached. They're on their P's and Q's. They have a strong identity. They know what they want to do. And oh, by the way, they added Kevin Durant this year. It's a big number. It's one that I'm kind of thinking about going over on, though.
Okay, I'm on the other side.
Okay.
This is the one where I want to go the other side on. You don't have continuity to rely on. So, like with the Nuggets, it's like you know what you're getting from Jokic and the starters. Like they're going to be good pretty much no matter what. The odds of Cam Johnson being a negative impact on their starting unit to a significant degree is just very low. You know what you're getting from Jokic, Jamal Murray, Aaron Gordon, Christian Brown doing the things that Christian Brown does. Here's a big one, okay, is understanding who they were last year, because I think it's a fascinating kind of question. Houston actually won 2 fewer games than they should have by Pythagorean expectation based off of their point differential. They should have won more games, which is really good. Like that's a really confident and inspiring. Against teams with a top 10 point differential, that team went 17-14. That was the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 best record in the league. And that's because of a couple of games at the end of the season where they were resting because they'd already gotten their stuff done. They'd already locked in their seeding. They were 1.4 ahead of those elite teams. They were lights out versus the top 8 in the West, too. I mean, they were killer versus the top teams in the Western Conference. And it didn't mean anything when the playoffs came. Now, this is a regular season question, is how many games are you going to win? One of the problems I think that we have to kind of look at there is exactly what is this offense? Because for a time, Houston flirted with being a top 10 offense. Then they fell backwards. They fell back and back and back and back and back and back. And they settled back down to where they were, to where we all kind of knew, like, this team can't score at all. And you add Kevin Durant, which definitely, like, I'm not going to sit here and try and make an argument that Kevin Durant is not a great addition. It is. Like, that's why this number, I don't think this number is crazy. I don't think that this is a ridiculous number. They could add, like, they should be expected to win 55 games with a team that was second in the Western Conference with that many wins last year that added Kevin Durant, for sure. However, if we do kind of look at their schedule adjusted offensive stuff, they wound up 13th in offensive rating, and that was pretty generous based off of the half court putback stuff. It's just offensive rebounds, and they'll still be good at that. They still got the 2 bigs. But I think it's a leap to be like, this team is going to jump into top 5 offense category, that this team is going to jump into being top 8 offense. Even if they are able to jump top 9, let's say that KD gets him 5 spots and he gets them up to KD and internal improvement plus Jalen Green not being there, get them into top 8. That's still probably the teams that win 55 plus games are elite. Like they are elite. And if you say like, well, why can Denver do it? Because Denver's not going to be top 5 in defense. Well, we'll see. One, they've got the capacity to actually put in some pretty good defensive seasons. 2023, they had their moments. But the other thing I think is, or 2024 rather, I don't know that there's enough here to just kind of believe that this is going to click immediately. This is a big change for them. Jalen Green's gone. You know, they moved on from him. They moved on from Dylan, who was a steadying force. And now it's Kevin Durant. And the men's going to have to be the primary initiator, and Şengün's going to have to be the primary engine, and that hasn't really happened yet. I just think that this team's going to be awesome. I think they'll be really great. I have them projected very high because my number suggested that last year they overachieved by a huge amount. So I've still got them. I've got them below 50. I've got them at 49 wins. If you ask me, like, do you think that they're winning fewer than 50? I'd say no, but I could say, 51, 52 is a great season, and that's still 4 short of this number.
Right.
So I lean towards the under here pretty heavily.
You might have convinced me. It is just a big number, and it's really easy to be like 52 wins plus Kevin Durant. Why not?
Yep.
But this is how Vegas acts. That's sort of they know that a lot of people are going to bet the over, thinking exactly that, and they're going to generate a lot of action on this. But so in terms of my stat that I have, and it's one that I keep quoting over and over again, they were 13-1 when Jalen Green scored 30 or more points last year. When they just had a guy who could be the number 1 scoring option, this team was virtually unbeatable. And if you just assume Kevin Durant walks into that and just doing that, now is he going to score 30 every single night? No. But they were also 17-8 when Jalen Green scored 27 or more. So like, as long as they have a guy to just put the ball in the basket, everything else just kind of works out. That was basically at a 56 win pace last year, which would be just over this number. You're going to get growth from Amen Thompson, who I think is an absolute stud. I still like Jabari Smith Jr. Tari Eason will be there. Alperen Şengün. Reed Shepherd is a good shooter. He should help with the outside shooting stuff. But it's a big number.
Big number.
If there's an injury, if there's something, that's it. and they had pretty decent injury luck last year. I thought they overachieved last year based on, like, you look at their point differential. It's right. Like Memphis had a better point differential and they were the eighth
Yeah.
seed, right? Like their point differential wasn't like as close to maybe Oklahoma City as being the 2 seed behind them might suggest. So yeah, it's a scary big number for a pretty young, unproven team. So I had over written down, but I think you convinced me. I'll go under on that one. All right. Next is
Clippers.
the Clippers. You're right. It is the Clippers. Let's do it. 49.5 is what I have written down. What do you think?
I'm checking. Yeah, there's a 48.5 in the market. So there's been a little bit of move back the other direction here. I wind up very much over here. And I don't,
Yep, me too.
I don't love this. I don't
Me
love
neither.
this. I am the internet's resident Kawhi Leonard is overstated, not overrated, overstated person. I'm the only person that's willing to talk about his failures in game sevens. I still have this team at 57 wins. And this is the area where when the books are like, hey, we'll give you more than 45 but less than 50, those are the teams that tend to go over because those are good teams that if they have a good season, breeze past. And it's very possible that this Clippers team is like a top 3 seed in the Western Conference again. Kawhi did look awesome when he came back from injury. Harden knows who he is with this team. He's comfortable there. They've settled down. Like, he knows he's going to be there for the duration. I think it's fascinating how they built this roster because a lot of this is like they literally built a roster to beat Denver. They were like, we've got Zoo. We won the Zoo minutes versus Jokic, but we lost the non-Zoo minutes versus Jokic. Let's go get Brook Lopez. Chris Paul is still a very good player. I think Chris Paul is more impactful than Bradley Beal. And Beal,
Agreed.
I think, was probably scapegoated in Phoenix and still is probably like a very borderline net negative. Like, it's very, one game he might be a little bit of a positive, one game he might be a little bit of a negative. And that's probably like the average swing variance for him night to night. But look, Norman Powell tailed off so dramatically after the injury and when Kawhi came back. He just absolutely tailed. I don't love that they have this roster that's kind of like we have offensive guys or defensive guys. We have Chris Dunn and DJJ, and then we have Harden and we have Bradley Beal. I don't love that they're very split between those two, but I do think as much as I think Ty Lue is right a little high, circa 2022, 2023. Like, people are just a little too high on Ty Lue and what he's accomplished, and he still has a tendency to go small too much. But look, they got like Nick Batum's still there. They still got so many guys. They just got so many guys. And with a great defense, Zoo is so good. Even if he has a little bit of regression this year, I still think this team's going to win more than 50 games. I think this is a very solid over.
I have this also as a solid over. I want to just piggyback on that point that you made about like the offense guys, the defense guys. It also tends to be like the big starry name guys, and then the Chris Dunn guys and the Derrick Jones Jr. guys who are not as starry named as Bradley Beal and Chris Paul and James Harden. My only hope is that they continue to lean on their defense and they don't push too many of those minutes towards some crazy James Harden, Bradley Beal, Chris Paul, John Collins lineups. You know what I mean? I'm a little worried about the too many good guys problem here. And like some of those big names who might have certain expectations versus these role players who might be a little bit too deferential to some of these starry guys. But I think Ty Lue is a good coach when it comes to handling rotations. And I like that over the course of his career, Ty Lue has had a really quick hook on lineups. If they don't work, he just yanks it. And that's it. And he'll try something else. And I think that's probably good for this roster, especially for the first couple of months of this season. So I think he's the right coach for a group that's like this. And at the end of the day, there's just a lot of talent. There's a lot of depth. There's a lot of injuries that they can withstand. Kawhi finished the year healthy, which is a first. You don't think what on the injury part you did?
Yes, I mean, here's the thing though. Okay, they were 19-15 when Kawhi came back, so they're on pace for about 45 wins. Like, they're not on pace for anything spectacular. Like, they were good. They were like better than we thought. We're like, look at the Clippers,
Right?
But it was also just like, oh, the Clippers, and then went into like, oh, the Clippers when Kawhi got back. You are still dependent on Kawhi getting through 60 games. And man, that's a big ask with his history.
I don't
this
know
is
that you
one
need him to
where,
play 60 to get 50 wins here. If you just got Harden, Zubac, and some shooting and that defense, I just need that defense to come back
but
from
again,
last year.
the record kind of shows that that's not true. The record shows that they were just like a little bit over 500 when that happened. If you miss 2 months of Kawhi, you'd be sweating this all the way through if you pick them over.
Yeah.
And then I'm with you that I don't have any evidence other than the rest of Kawhi Leonard's career, or the last, let's see, the last 8 years of Kawhi Leonard's career to base this on. But I have the last 8 years of Kawhi Leonard's career, plus the age of Harden, plus the age of Chris Paul, plus the age of Bradley Beal.
Right.
It is that there is real risk here that I don't know especially if they get a cluster injury, they're in real trouble, right? Yeah. If like Brooke is nice insurance for Zoo, but let's say the power forward gets banged up, and they're in that because they had John Collins too. He's so good. Like they had so many guys, but if they get a cluster injury at small forward or something, it winds up being, it does get a little dicey here. And do you trust Tyler to keep playing Chris Dunn, who is so good for them? I don't know that I do. I think he might play Bradley Beal.
That's my biggest worry with them. Trust is the key word when it comes to me with the Clippers. I just wrote a piece on RealGM last week or 2 weeks ago. I will never trust the Clippers. I have 2 rules when it comes to the NBA. Don't watch Charlotte after February. It's a waste of time. And never trust the Clippers. I will not trust the Clippers. And for that reason, I would never bet on this number. But to your point, I have it as an over, but it's a scary over. I do like that at least Kawhi finished the year healthy, which is not, we can't always say that. So he'll at least presumably be there at the start of the year. But again, I have no idea what to think about Kawhi Leonard. I don't trust Kawhi as your superstar, but that's a different topic, I suppose. The Lakers, I have them at 48.5. Is that right? Yes, I have them 48.5. That seemed like a big number to me too, Matt. To me, my biggest question about the Lakers, do they have a better chance at being an elite offense or an elite defense? Because it feels like you got to be at least one of those two things to get to 49, 50 plus wins in the Western Conference. And Lakers fans love to point to that month stretch where they're the number 1 team defensively in defensive rating. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. I'm looking at this personnel. I'm still not buying it for a full season. And by the way, that kind of fell off a cliff after that, but nobody wants to talk about that. And then offensively, look, you've got Luka, you got LeBron. Maybe that's enough. That definitely could be enough, but the shooting is just okay on this roster, and that's being pretty generous. The bench is really thin, so this is an injury away potentially from being even, in a pretty scary spot. But, and this is a big but, Luka and LeBron. So it's a big number, but they have 2 of the top 10 guys in the NBA. Maybe it's enough to get it done. I don't know. Where are you?
I'm a slide over. I'm a slide over.
I'm a slight under is what I have written.
It's because the number, right? 47.5 is like, you're a pretty good team.
Oh, so you have 47.5.
There's a 47.5 in the market.
Okay.
I think that win matters, right?
It does. Yeah. I mean, if it was, I kind of have this team pegged at 48 wins and I have it written down 48.5. So we're kind of on the same page here.
And I'm with you because I was like, not believing. I was like, this defense is gonna be atrocious. Come on. Jackson Hayes is starting at center, and then Jackson Hayes for 6 weeks was awesome defensively, and all the rotations were perfect, and they were scrambling, and they were that was the thing, was they were able to switch with Jackson and then able to scramble out of it. And then like Redick just got spooked in the playoffs. He just got absolutely spooked. So now they have guys that he can trust a little bit more. They still gave him Jackson for some reason. I don't know why, because it's just like, when is Redick going to want to play Jackson Hayes? And that's beside the fact that Jackson Hayes probably shouldn't be in the league based off of some of the allegations. But anyway, hashtag Miles Bridges. But
they also lost Dorian Finney-Smith, which is a big loss for them.
That's a huge deal here. It's like, well, but they got Marcus Smart. I'm really worried Marcus is washed. And we kind of hinted at this in the last episode. When Boston gives up on a guy, you should have red alarm bell should be going off in your head. Because when they are done, that means they don't ever come back. They usually wear guys out until they're a husk. And then when they're willing to discard them, it's because they built their reputation up. Very Miami Heat-like. Like they're just not the same guy because of the miles and the wear and tear. Atlanta should be concerned about this as well. Look, it was bad luck in Memphis. It was a bad trade for Memphis. They needed to move off of him. Jalen Wells was really great, which is a reason that they moved him. Smart, I hope Smart has a bounce back season because I've loved what kind of defender he is, where he can guard 5 positions. He's such a pain when he switches on the bigs in the post. But if he's not that, if he is not DPOY Smart, man, they don't have anybody. I continue to question whether Austin Reeves and Luka Doncic can ever be part of.
Well, one more part on. Can I jump in on Marcus Smart?
Yeah,
because we started seeing that decline his last year in Boston, and then he got traded. So to your point, the Celtics kind of know, and he wasn't even DPOY Marcus Smart that last season in a Celtics jersey.
Yeah.
So you could say, well, it was weird years in Memphis, and Washington wasn't playing any. That like he was kind of declining 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So that was a big part of it too. And I'm a little worried right now that JJ Redick, because that they're going to look at Marcus Smart and say, that's our point of attack defender. Not anymore, dude. That's not really his game anymore. Unless he has some tremendous type of bounce back year and he's healthy all of a sudden. Like, even the last couple of years, he was more of a wing defender. Washington was scared to use him as a point of attack defender. And they weren't exactly flush with options there. He was more of a wing defender, which is valuable. He's a valuable wing defender. He's a good communicator. And when he's on the court, I think he's going to have a net positive impact to the Lakers defense because of just his communication, his pride on that end. That kind of stuff is infectious and matters in regular season defense in a big way that I think is a little underrated. But if JJ Redick is throwing him out there to guard elite point guards, I think Lakers fans are going to be really disappointed with how that turns out.
Yeah.
So
I'm with you on the defense, but look, they go out last year and they rack up 50 and 32. And this is kind of, I understand if you're listening to this, you're like, wait, so Houston's not legit, but the Lakers are? And I'm like, yeah, kind of. Because what the Lakers are going to be capable of being. So, for example, the Lakers were they were 7th in half-court offense and 11th in half-court defense. The Rockets were 22nd in half-court offense. Like, they were truly miserable and were propping it up with smoke and mirrors, which you can do in the regular season for a year. Hard doing it 2 years in a row is difficult, even if you add KD. With the Lakers, LeBron, Luka, Reeves, DeAndre Ayton, I had to go back and re-familiarize myself with Ayton's game. Like, I had to go back and actually be like, in my mind, he had become something different than he is. And he is such a great pick and roll lob threat. And if you give Luka that type of weapon, the offense is so easy, man. It's just so easy. You got to make catch and shoot jump shots. That's it. They have enough shooting. They've got enough on those kind of weapons. They've got enough of those kind of capacities. I don't even think LeBron really matters here because the drop was so bad in terms of his advanced numbers last year. Like, his great games are still amazing, but his bad games are now worse than ever. Like, his bad games are worse than they were when he was a rookie by far, by a wide margin, right? That unbelievable, you're always going to get this level of excellence from LeBron is gone.
Right.
But you're still going to get a lot of nights where he is the best player on the court. I don't really care about Luka's fitness. I'm always skeptical of that because he does this a lot and then works himself out of shape. He's still such a monster, man. Like, he's just a monster. He's a one-man army. He just does everything. And if you have a rim runner and shooters, you're going to be an elite offense. They're going to cook. They're going to kill. And they're going to... One of the easiest ways to win 50 games, really the model. I always talk about this, that these are the games you need to win. You need to win your division games. You need to win your home games. And you need to win your games versus teams under 500. The Lakers have one of the best home court advantages in the league because everybody goes out the night before. They have a division that they have shown the ability to, like, they destroyed the Clippers last year in a year where the Clippers were really good. They couldn't match up. And they were really good versus Phoenix when Phoenix was actually not good. But in the beginning of the season when they weren't dead yet, they also got past their bugaboo with the Kings, right? If AD struggles versus Domantas Sabonis, guess what? AD's not there anymore. And Davis actually won his last couple of meetings against Sabonis. And then this is the big one. JJ is great at managing the schedule and absolutely beating the snot out of bad teams. Every single team that they face under 500 that the Lakers get up for, and they will actually rest guys to win those games. This is a Popovich thing. You rest the guys in whatever game is versus the tough opponent if the back-to-back is versus the easy one. So if the easy game is first, you're playing everybody sit in the second night, and then you flip it the other way. They did that a couple times last season. They're going to work the regular season schedule. They're going to get a top 4 seed. I think this is a team that goes over just slightly. I think like 52 wins is an absolute ceiling. I think 50 is not out of the realm of possibility. I think 47.5 is a little soft. I got to go over.
All right, I'll hear it. The depth makes me a little concerned here. It's a scary over if you want to go over, but I'm here for it. Memphis, 40.5 is the number I have here.
Oof.
Is that what you had written down?
Yeah, that's where we got it.
48 wins last year.
Yeah.
They lose Desmond Bane.
Mm-hmm.
They add Contavious Caldwell-Pope in that trade along with the draft picks. Zach Edey out for the start of the season. I know you're his biggest fan. There's questions about the new coach there, but they're relatively healthy outside the Edey thing, which is new for them. I like the addition of Ty Jerome there quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really see a reason why they should be 7 or 8 wins worse than what they were last year. I'm tempted to go the slight over on this one, Matt. Where are you?
This is a number that's preposterous. Now you should always be concerned from a. If you look at the history of the data, it'd have to take me a second to pull it up. When the number goes down by this much, the phrase would be "quote unquote" Vegas knows.
Right.
Quick aside, that is not true. One, most of the lines that are set in Vegas are actually not set in Vegas. They're built on offshore books off of in non-US countries, and then those numbers are emulated by various people in Vegas. So the phrase Vegas knows doesn't do anything. The other thing is that these numbers are all built off of models. But anyway, when the market does decide that a team is going to get substantially worse, it's usually correct. Like they are usually smart on that. They're way worse at projecting jumps than they are drops. So that's a little bit of a concern. But I don't know. This team baffled me. They were so damn good until January.
Mm-hmm.
Elite defense.
Mm-hmm.
The offense was working. They were playing fast paced. Jaren made such a great leap over the last 2 seasons. Jalen Wells is a revelation. People do not understand how good that kid is. He should have won Rookie of the Year. Like all of these things, they are all so good. There is so much to like here that I have to go over. I have them at like 49 wins. I think they're going to be in competition for like a top 5 seed in the Western Conference. If you want the reason not to, it's that I do not know if Tomas Asalo is a good coach.
That's it. That's the entire thing. We have no idea. I don't want to say that he was handed the head coaching job, but there wasn't exactly a mass interview process after he had taken the interim job. We have no idea. And I do think Taylor Jenkins had a lot to do with their sort of resolve as a group and ability to withstand injuries and that next man up mentality. All that stuff is really hard to just replicate with any old head coach, just because it's the same, virtually the same roster, very similar team. You can't just assume that stuff just carries over. That sort of emotional, fortitude. You can't just assume that stuff carries over. That said, again, I love the Ty Jerome addition for them. They still have Scottie Pippen Jr. coming off the bench. When we're talking about injuries, we're really talking about Ja Morant. And with Jerome, I think that's exactly the kind of Tyus Jones type of guy who just fills in, plays his role, keeps the thing humming until Ja Morant comes back. So I'm going over, you're going over. Minnesota, I have them at 49.5 wins here. They won 49 games last year, so we're right there. Makes sense. No real changes to the roster year after year. They did lose Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Yes, Mike Conley, Rudy Gobert. They're a year older. Conley showed real decline towards the end of last season. You could see the decline even with Rudy Gobert a little bit in last season. To me, this number, even just kind of staying where it is, it's a bet on Anthony Edwards just taking another leap, which is entirely possible. It's a bet on guys like Terrence Shannon, Rob Dillingham, Jalen Clark all being better, which I like. I like that group quite a bit. But I'm going to go slight under here, Matt. Minnesota's going to need to have a regression year. It's got to happen at some point. It just feels like it has to happen. And this feels like it's probably the year that it happens. They went all in on this Rudy Gobert, Mike Conley, Karl-Anthony Towns for a little bit of it. Let's bet on Anthony Edwards making that leap during this. Let's go all in and try to make a run. And they did. They made the Western Conference Finals twice. That's awesome for this Timberwolves franchise. That is not nothing. But that window, I think, is going to close at some point, and they're going to have to open up a new window, which Tim Connolly, I think, is doing a really good job of preparing them to be part of that window. But part of that process is a regression year, and I think it has to happen this year. I'm going to go under on 49, and I kind of hate myself for it because I like this Timberwolves team.
I am a slight lean over.
Okay.
Because I don't, like, they're due for regression. Well, maybe not. Maybe this is just the floor, right?
Yep.
I don't think that they've overachieved. And you can't
Nope.
say last year that they overachieved. They were 4.7 wins worse by cleaning the glass than their record.
They lost a lot of weird close games early in the season.
They had bizarre clutch problems, and those are usually not something to really freak out about. One thing that's interesting, I did want to kind of note on that because I think this is a fascinating thing that happens in the NBA. I only have this data updated through 2023-24. But the teams that underperform their win total. So what I mean by that is they won fewer games than they should have based off of how good they were in point differential.
Okay.
One of the things I noticed is that the number that comes out for these teams is more closely correlated with that number than it is their actual wins. So when you ask how are these numbers built, at least from the surface, I don't have any insight on how they are, but at least on the surface, they are more strongly correlated with what you should have won than what you actually did. And what's fascinating is 55% of teams that underperformed go under the next year. They don't regress back to being well, they should have won more games last year. They're going to win more games this year. Nope. That's not how it works. Something caused them to win fewer games.
Right.
If you want to believe in the causation effect here, that something caused them to win fewer games than they should have. And that actually winds up catching up with them the year after. I think that's a fascinating thing when we look at some of the numbers and how often we use point differential as a starting point. That said, look, Anthony Edwards, Rudy Gobert, Chris Finch, that's really all I need. Dante DiVincenzo is not as bad as he was last year. He's just not. He will be better this season. He had a rough season. Seen this a million times from guys like him, where it's shooters can't get comfortable. They have to find they have some minor injuries. They're trying to figure out the rotation. He'll be better.
Julius Randle will be better.
Yep, Julius Randle.
It was a really rough start the first couple months of last year.
Yeah. Jaden McDaniels was terrible to the point where I thought they were going to trade him until January. And then he really rediscovered his role, got comfortable, and moved forward. The Nikhil loss matters. I'm not it does matter. Yep. But what's interesting is if their problem is offense, doesn't moving Nikhil out for somebody that's got a little bit more burst than Terrence Shannon Jr. Nikhil's a great shooter. No question. But they've got shooting. Isn't it better to add somebody who's got a little bit more bounce to their game and Terrence Shannon Jr. or some of the other games? Maybe Rob Dillingham gives them a boost off the bench. I don't love this one. I'm not going to bet it, but I have to go kind of over. I think Chris Finch deserves enough credit to be they're going to be a 50-win team again.
It's a scary 50 wins. To me, again, I think the Conley minutes are going to be rough. I think the Gobert decline is already starting, and I'm not, as much as I like the young guys, are they ready to take on more right now, or is there a 1 year? And by the way, when I say regression, I'm not saying that they're going to be in the play-in tournament. They'll probably win 47 games. You know what I mean? Yeah. But it's enough for me to just stay away from it. I've got New Orleans here next at 29.5. One of my favorite teams to talk about based on their offseason because it was horrible. And I don't understand it. And nobody that I talk to can make it make sense for me. CJ McCollum out, Jordan Poole in. Okay. Jordan Poole has another year left on his contract, more than McCollum. All right. They love Derek Queen so much that they had to trade an unprotected pick next summer to move up to get him. But they didn't love him enough to just pick him with the first pick that they had, where they took Jeremiah Fears, who people are very split on. If you talk to draft people, they're either in or they're out on him. They won 21 games last year. Zion played 30 games. We could talk about the offseason and all this stuff, I guess. It probably just comes down to how many games Zion plays, honestly, and whether or not they make the 29.5 or not.
What's tough about this one is, if you're like me and you've got them projected for 27 wins, if Zion's healthy and Trey Murphy is what they think he is, and Jordan Poole shot the freaking lights out last year. He shot the lights out last year. He was a great shooter last year. And this team defies all expectations and comes together. this has a cascading effect across the entire Western Conference. Because now the Lakers, that this is the type of team that they should beat up and destroy. What if they split with them? What if they get 4 games against them and they split with them? There's a cascading effect on the Pelicans because I don't know where the hell to put them, just like with the Sixers. So I don't have really any interest in trying to nail a win total on them. There's more interesting questions like, is Trey Murphy third able to be the guy if Zion's still banged up? Is the Derek Queen thing going to be that terrible for them? What if Jeremiah Fears saves the day for them and it's just like an absolute revelation? What's the future of Willie Green? Like, there's a lot of ancillary questions, but trying to get an accurate target on this team is absolutely impossible. This team was genuinely good 2 years ago and was absolute disaster last year. And there's no way to predict any of it because their training staff is so terrible because of the ownership situation. It's all a mess. There's no way to target this.
If you bet the over on this, heck, if you bet this, I don't know, like,
reconsider.
This is crazy. To your point, the win total is almost not interesting at all. It's a very fascinating team organization to discuss and talk about. The players are very interesting. I love Trey Murphy III. I quite like Willie Green as a head coach. Yves Missy is my guy. I bought a lot of stock in him before the draft, and I was glad that he played well for New Orleans last year. I think there's some interesting players that come off the bench. This is a total stay away for me. I went slight under if I had to pick something, but it's a stay away. Let's go Thunder next here. 62.5 wins is the win total I have. They won 68 games last year. I kind of want to take the over on this, Matt. I kind of want to take the over. And I just look at history. I have no fancy schmancy numbers or anything like that, but I look at history. The Warriors, after they won the championship, ripped off 73 wins the next year. Not saying that the Thunder are going to do that, but they did that. The year after Miami won their first title in the Big Three era, they ripped off 66 wins the year after. Boston, after they won the championship in 2023, ripped off 64 wins the year after. There tends to be we did it, we won the first one, now let's show everybody how much of a badass we are. This is our block now, and we're going to own it kind of thing that happens with some of these teams, especially when they're a little bit younger and they've kind of gotten over the hill. I think this Thunder takes a ton of pride in all this stuff. I think they're going to say, we're the champions, and we're going to act like it, and you're going to treat us as such. I think they're going to come out smelling blood, wanting to prove to the rest of the league again that they're all that in a bag of chips. So I got the Thunder going over here.
I have them 72 wins.
Jesus Christ.
Like, what am I supposed to do? Like, what am I supposed to do here? Like, what am I supposed to do? Because there's no way to argue that they obviously didn't get worse. The roster's the exact same. They'll be more tired. Yeah. The Celtics, I think, are a great example. The Celtics are a great example of this, where, they win. They were an older team, but they win the title. They rack up all these wins in 2024, and they were still 60 wins last year. Like, they were still an over. Like, it's just, this number seems so preposterously high that you should definitely be betting the under. And I will say that 67% of all teams, it's a very limited number for any team that has had a win total of more than 60. It's 4-2 to the under. And most of that is just the Warriors because you couldn't put an accurate number on them. Their floor is so ridiculously high. You're right that they're young, so they've got more energy. I am just with you that it is such a preposterously high number. That's so many wins. But God, they should have, if they put the pedal down, they breezed the 75. If they put the pedal down last year, they breezed the 75, and they managed it, and they won the title because of it. So,
this wasn't an injury luck thing. They didn't have a center for a month.
Yeah. Beating them in the regular season is so freaking, because there's so many games last year where it was like, hey, they're down 7 at the half. They might actually, nope, there they go. Yep. They won by 17.
Yep.
Their runs are ridiculous.
Their defense is sticky. Like, it will carry over. They have that ability to just be like, now we're just going to full court press. We're going to take the ball away from you.
I will say, one, it tailed off towards the end of the season. And two, that defense was such an outlier. It probably does regress a little bit, but not enough. I'm with you.
Right.
We got to get the over here.
Yeah, I'm going over. I mean, literally, the only reason to me to take the under on this or to even think they'll come under, they can withstand most injuries, as they proved last year. If SGA turns an ankle, knock on wood, right? Nobody wants to see it. That's the only reason you take the under, is if SGA is just like out with something for a very long time. And that's the only reason to even think that they'd come under this number. This team is going to be a juggernaut. Help me out. Who's the next team? I'm so bad at this. Why did I write this all down on notebook?
One of my favorite teams to talk about, the Phoenix Suns.
31.5 is what I have. Is that what you have?
I have them currently in the market. You can find it's 30 and there's a 30.5 in the market, 31.5.
So I like their offseason, all things considered. Like they did it. I'm giving them credit for something I shouldn't give them credit for, because they did bungle their way into a situation where they were forced to trade Kevin Durant based on how they acted in February. But all things considered, that's why I put that on there. All things considered, I liked what they did. I don't have a problem with them just removing themselves from the Bradley Beal situation. Again, a situation of their own making. They created such a toxic situation with their own employee there, essentially, that they had to basically just release them and eat the money on it. But I like the additions at center. I had no problem with them trading for a center in Mark Williams and then taking Malawach at 10 or 9 or wherever that pick was. I just think when you have a problem, throw money at it. I have no problem with that. Just go ahead and address the issue and something will work out. I like Dylan Brooks for this roster. I like the stuff that they got for Kevin Durant. I kind of like Jalen Green for this roster, even in a weird way. I like their smaller moves: Jordan Goodwin, Jared Butler, Nigel Hayes, bringing him back over here. So we'll see. Jordan Ott at head coach is maybe the biggest question mark I have. Just we don't know, not proven. We'll see what happens there. I have one Devin Booker take, but before I get to that, I was surprised at this. I kind of went slight over on this.
This is going to be one of my stronger positions. I'm at 40 wins. I am way over.
Okay.
I think they are a play-in contender.
Wow.
A lot of this is, if you want to look at it from a player perspective, think about how many guys in this roster are not going to register when they're building a model for him. Like, how much is this player worth to the spread for a power rating? Osa Iguodala is awesome and is not going to register at all. Dylan Brooks is really good for long stretches. He was great first half for Houston. He's a big reason they won 50 games. Not going to register a lot on that. Nick Richards, Mark Williams, and the rookie, not going to register that much. Jordan Goodwin is a very good player who can actually impact things. Not going to register on it. Like, the guys that are actually getting Ryan Dunn. Love Ryan Dunn. Right? They have all of these guys that are not going to register against this win total and are going to be considered basically net zeros or negatives. And it's just like, well, what's Devin Booker worth? And like, that's this number. This number is like, what's Devin Booker worth? Oh, about 30 wins. Okay. The roster is actually really good. I have no reason to think Jordan Ott could be terrible. That's always a risk. But I have no reason to think Jordan Ott is so terrible to pull them under 30 wins. So I'm with you. I think this is an over.
Let's talk Devin Booker. I kind of like him for the scoring title this year.
Ooh, that's a spicy take. Love it.
It's going to be him. He's the offense. All the guys you talked about, I love them. They're all defensive players. Yeah. They're all catch and shoot guys. It's going to be a lot of Devin Booker at point guard because they don't have a point guard, which he's not bad at. It just didn't work when he was trying to get it also to he isn't a skilled enough point guard and deferential enough to be like, I'm feeding Beal, I'm feeding Durant, and I'm also getting mine. But if it's just him kind of heliocentric offense and just kicking out to open shooters who don't necessarily need the ball on any given possession, I think it's going to work. I think he's really skilled at that stuff. There's enough centers there where he can just run pick and roll. We've seen him do work with that in the past with guys like DeAndre Ayton and other guys. He's just going to have the ball in his hands so much. And he's so capable of it. I love just a big, by the way, I'm back. I'm still a top 15 guy. I'm reminding everybody type of season from Devin Booker.
Yeah.
And he might average 32 points per game.
Yeah. If he can wrestle the ball away from Jalen Green, he's going to be in a really good position.
Yep.
Like, I love that take, though. I think that Booker underperformed so much last season. He's a guy that, again, it's like he's due, but it's just like, look, man, progression isn't linear, and the drop was too much last year and inexplicable. You listen to Locked On Suns and they talked about it. It didn't make any sense.
Right.
How much Devin struggled last year. I'm with you. I think this is a bounce back season. I think this is a revenge tour for Devin Booker. I love that take for him for scoring title.
Two more teams. Let's breeze through them here. Portland.
We got 3 actually.
Jesus Christ. Oh, you're right. Utah. Okay.
Can't forget about Utah.
It's hard not to. Portland at 33.5. They won 36 wins last year. They were 4th in defensive rating after the All-Star break. They went 13-14 during that stretch. If they do something similar to that, they would breeze past this number. Their offense is still a problem. Their big move was Drew Holiday for Anthony Simons. That doesn't help their offensive issues. I like Holiday as part of that locker room. I don't know how impactful he'll be on the court. You mentioned the Boston thing earlier. Just copy and paste that conversation here. I think I go slight over because I like Chauncey Billups. I like a lot of the players on this roster. I like Denny Avdia. There's just a lot that I like here. I don't feel awesome about it. It just feels like they need a Scoot Henderson leap to just consistently be that. I think they were a
Yep.
little inflated towards the end of last year. You're always wary of teams that kind of do work when other teams are not really doing work. That said, 33.5 is low enough where I would probably take the over.
Stay away from me.
Yeah.
They're not going to be worse. I don't know how much better they're going to be. Injuries could be here. If Scoot doesn't progress and Tamani Cameron misses some time, what does that look like? What are they going to do with center? They got too many. Trade some guys for the love of God.
Well, they're a big trade candidate here, and if they go under, it might just be like, let's pull the plug on this.
Well, it could go the other way though. It could be like, oh, they went out and they got like an actual offensive weapon that can kind of drive, right? They trade Scoot and Robert Williams, and that's a great trade package if you go get an actual weapon. But now I can't project that. Right. So their offense is so bad, their defense is so good. I've got them right here at 32.7. It's not at a point where I want to bet it. I don't feel confident. I'll tell you this, Wes, I don't even feel confident that I'm like, they're definitely winning less than 40 games. Like, no, like they could absolutely be in the play-in tournament. They could win 43. They could be a 500 team. Wouldn't shock me in the slightest.
Right.
They could also be a 30-win team that never got it quite together and they were just bad. It's that it is too much in the nebula for me to go either direction on the Portland Trailblazers.
Sacramento, 35.5. I had one lock in the Western Conference. This is my lock, Matt. I'm going under on the Sacramento Kings. I am going under. They limped to 40 wins somehow last year. This is the number one WTF team in the league. I have no idea what's going on, but I don't see any way that they're better than. This is going to be one of the worst 5 defenses in the league, and they're not going to be 5. I don't see how they climb their way out of the bottom 5 in defensive rating. I don't trust their offense. There's no point guard that I trust. All apologies to Dennis Schroeder and potentially here Russell Westbrook. 35.5, like 36 wins for this team just feels like a lot. I think this team's going to be in the 20s.
I can't get there. The numbers disagree here, and they're just like, no, this is actually going to be a pretty decent team. Levine really was awesome last year. Like he was just awesome. I wish they would trade DeMar DeRozan. I wish they would just trade DeMar DeRozan to Golden State or Miami or somewhere and just like move him and get some more versatility, especially to open up things for Keegan Murray. But in general, I'm with you that I don't want to bet the over, but I am not confident in the under at all.
San Antonio's at 43.5. They won 34 games last year. That was with Victor Wembanyama getting hurt. They add De'Aaron Fox. Wemby and Fox played only 5 games together. My first instinct, and I think what a lot of people are going to be questioning, is why is this not higher? So I have a hipster team for each conference. My hipster team was Atlanta for the East. The hipster team is San Antonio. Everybody's going to be picking the over on San Antonio. I'm not saying that they're wrong. They added some needed front court depth. I like Luke Cornett. I like Kelly Olynyk for them as just another body back there. Dylan Harper and Carter Bryant looked good in Summer League. I like the over for them. And I'm usually not one of these guys that bangs on the hipster team, but I have no reason not to like them other than just scary Wemby injury stuff.
What's the big leap? Dylan Harper? What's the
Wembanyama being healthy?
Yeah, I mean, look. Well, yeah, okay, but even with Wemby, they were tracking towards under 500.
Yeah, I guess it's a Wemby leap plus De'Aaron Fox being there all year.
They didn't make quite enough moves. They needed to move one of Vassell or Keldon Johnson. If they moved one of those guys and gotten like another dude in, but like Chris Paul was really good for them last year, and he's gone. It's just like a loss.
That's a big.
And there's
loss.
Luke Cornett, sure, but and Wemby could just jump this. That's possible, but everything about this screams that everyone's a little early on how good they are as a team versus how good Wemby is. And so I think that we need to. I'm going to be conservative here, and I'm going to lean under.
Utah 18.5, and I have no problem with that take. Utah 18.5. Do they trade Larry Markkinen in February before February?
Probably.
And if they do, they could definitely go under on this.
Yeah. I mean, you don't trade for Yusuf Nurkic unless you want to lose games. So I've got them at 18. This is going to be the only team in the teens. They're going to be the worst team in the league again.
By design, right? I think they finally want to win one of these lotteries.
Now, I will say I don't want to bet it because of the numbers that we talked about in the first episode, which is like, hey, these numbers under 25, you don't want to get in on. Like, you just want to ignore it. They could win a 6 out of 10, and then you're screwed. So,
Matt Moore, we did it. We got through all 30 teams, both conferences, a little bit more than 2 hours. Really appreciate the time, man. You could find, I think your picks are up there on the Action Network, actionnetwork.com. You could find him on the Action Network podcasts. You could find him over at the Locked On Podcast Network, Locked On NBA Afternoons. Awesome show that you do over there with Hayes and that other guy. I forget his name, but and Doug. Thanks for jumping on, man. Really appreciate the time.
Thanks, man.